Welcome back to the terribly named Okay Not Okay podcast. I am the SportsZu, and programming reminder, this is our last show for an entire week as the doc and I have to get going for two big weddings this weekend. So you can see I got a nice new haircut and I am ready to go right now. So with that, let's get started, and I need to start with a confession. I have a blind spot for the Bloodline. Yeah, what do you mean by that? So as you hopefully know, we have a betting podcast every month right before the premium live event. And that is my personal best and favorite podcast that I do every month. And so you're probably saying, well, SportsZu, you only do one podcast a week, so that's not very many podcasts. And to that I say, touche, you got me there. But nonetheless, it's still the favorite. And to that I say, if you don't watch, well, watch that one, because I go in depth on just about every angle of every single match on the PLE, including all of the prop bets, where I take a look at all of the storylines, all of the history, and all of the future ramifications to get to an ultimate prediction where we go against the spread to make sure that you pick all the winners. So back to my blind spot. I was talking with one of my buddies while we were watching the NFL, and I was saying how this particular podcast was my best, but I kept missing the Cody Rhodes and Bloodline matches. So I took a look back at the last three premium live events, and sure enough, that proved to be true. Now, if you know, I do picks to win and picks to bet, because let's think about it. Cody Rhodes was pretty likely to win at SummerSlam, so he was a minus 5,000 favorite, which is a 98.04% implied probability of him winning that match. So it was pretty likely that he was going to win. But I thought there was at least somewhat of a chance that Solo Sikoa was going to walk away with the victory. And since I don't want you to lose the big bucks by putting all your money on a huge favorite, I said, yeah, we're going to say the pick to bet here is Solo Sikoa, because this would be a perfect time to get him a victory and change the titles at least for a little while. And then of course at Bad Blood, we saw Cody Rhodes team up with Roman Reigns, and they beat the Bloodlines Sikoa and Fatu there. Now the odds were a lot closer, as Rhodes and Reigns are only a minus 500 favorite instead of minus 5,000, so they were still an 83.33% implied probability to win that one, but at least the odds were a lot better if you wanted to go with the favorite there. However, I thought there was nothing really on the line for Rhodes and Reigns, which I still see nothing on the line for Rhodes and Reigns coming out of that match, so it seemed like the perfect time for the Bloodline to look strong and get a victory. But that is not how it worked out, so I am 0-2 in those last two Bloodline matches over the last three PLEs. So looking back at those three LEs, I am 14-3 in all of the matches and 12-3 in all of the props. Put together, that is 26-6 for an 81.25% winning percentage. So that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good, and in fact, I was perfect at Bash in Berlin, probably because the Bloodline was not on the card. So if we remove those two matches that I lost involving the Bloodline, I am 14-1 in all matches, with my only loss being Damian Priest losing the title at SummerSlam, and my only prop loss was when Jake Paul did not appear at that PLE. So I am 9-1 in all props. Put that together, I am 23-2 for a 92% winning percentage. Pretty good, huh? Pretty good. And you have to admit that Jake Paul loss really had nothing to do with wrestling. He just had to appear on the screen. I thought he was going to be sitting in the crowd. I didn't actually think he was going to interfere in the match. So that led me to ask, why am I so wrong about the Bloodline here when I'm pretty much right about everything else? So the way I look at it is the Bloodline is supposed to be a dominant heel faction. So they should mostly win all of their matches and look pretty much unstoppable. And when they do lose, it's either because of a DQ, so they're not really even trying to win, or they immediately regain their heat back by attacking the person that they just lost to right after the match. Then in a big match, when it's actually important that they either win or lose a title perhaps, that's when they ultimately will lose. And so when the babyface wins in that type of match, they look like they have really accomplished something that was pretty much impossible for them to overcome by beating that faction. So of course, that's exactly what you saw with Cody Rhodes. Not only did he overcome losing night 1 of WrestleMania, he somehow won a Bloodline rules match with all of the other members of the Bloodline coming out to try to stop him to win. But is that how the new Bloodline is still being booked? Well, let's just go to the records and find out. First, I will admit that's probably more up the Doc's alley here, but we're gonna take a look at it anyways. So, for the other new Bloodline members, this year we first have Tama Tonga, who is the right-hand man and the first man to join the new Bloodline. He is 10-3-1 in all matches. Jacob Fatu, he is 5-1-1 in all matches. And Tongaloa, he is 4-1-1 in all matches. That all sounds pretty good, right? That's pretty dominant. Pretty much what you would expect. But the leader of the group, the new tribal chief wearing that Ulavala, we've got Solo Sikoa. He's clearly going to be the most dominant of all of them, right? No, not even close. That man is 6-9-1. That is a mere 40% winning percentage this year. What even is that? He is 2-6-1 in one-on-one matches and 4-3 in tag matches. That doesn't even make sense, right? It doesn't even make sense. So I looked back to what Sikoa has done over his time on the main roster, and he debuted at Clash at the Castle in 2022. So then he had to fight Drew McIntyre in his first official match, and he did lose that one. But he rebounded quite nicely from there, as his overall record in 2022 was 6-2 in one-on-one matches and 9-3 in all matches. That's pretty good. That's getting the job done. Then in 2023, he was 12-6-1 in one-on-one matches and 15-10-1 overall. Still pretty good. And that makes sense, as he is the heavy of the Bloodline group at that point, or as they would say, the enforcer of the Bloodline. So you would think he would win a lot of matches to show the group's dominance, and that made a lot of sense. But something turned around this time last year, because beginning in October of 2023 through now, he is just 7-13-1 overall, which is 35%. When before that, he was 23-9-1 for a 71.9% winning percentage. Why in the world would Solo Sikoa's winning percentage fall off a cliff when he has risen from enforcer and sidekick to Roman Reigns to being the leader of the new Bloodline? If you're trying to make the new Bloodline look strong, you gotta make the leader look like he can actually win some matches, right? Well, I guess not, because now let's look specifically at tag matches. So, first, Tama Tonga and Tongaloa, who are your current WWE Tag Team Champions, they are 3-0 in all tag matches. Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga are 2-0 in all tag matches. And Fatu, Tonga, and Loa put together, they are 0-0-1. They just had a no contest in their one match. So the three of them put together are 5-0-1. But when Solo Sikoa is part of a tag match, let's talk about that. If he's with Fatu, he is 1-1, losing their most recent match at Bad Blood. When he's with Tonga, he's 1-0. When he's with both Fatu and Tonga, he's 1-0. When he's with Fatu, Tonga, and Loa, he's 1-0. But if he's with Tonga and Loa, he's 0-1. And back in the prior Bloodline era with Jimmy Uso, he is 0-1. So for Sikoa, if he's in a tag match for the Bloodline, he is 4-3, which is okay. It's above 500. But compared to everybody else in the Bloodline, they are 5-0-1. And if you even want to include the old Bloodline with The Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, that would be 6-0-1. So all other Bloodline members in 2024 are undefeated at either 5-0-1 or 6-0-1, however you'd like to count that, while Sikoa is just barely over 500 at 4-3. So what in the world is going on here, folks? I don't understand it until I simply came to the conclusion that I guess it's just bad booking. This is bad booking. That's all there is to it. The one big problem with this new era of WWE, it seems like when you have that undisputed WWE Championship, nothing else even matters, and there's just nothing that's going to mess with that champion. So even though the Bloodline beat Cody Rhodes in an earlier tag match, well, that match didn't mean anything. And it simply led to Sikoa getting a title shot for winning that tag match. And yet, here we are again at Bad Blood in a tag match that doesn't mean anything, and you would think that match would be the match that would lead you into War Games, where we just know the Bloodline has to look strong to pose a fighting chance against Roman Reigns, but they lost to Roman Reigns? So what are we even doing here, folks? What are we even doing? I don't understand what this War Games match is even going to be about. Is the Ulafala going to be on the line at War Games? Or is Roman Reigns just going to kick their butt yet again? I don't understand it. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, if you watched my earlier prediction videos, you would know that my early WrestleMania pick after SummerSlam was for Roman Reigns to face Solo Sikoa at WrestleMania for the Ulafala in tribal combat, just like he had done previously against Jey Uso, so the Ulafala would be on the line in that one. So I figured we would be stretching this thing out all the way until WrestleMania. I suppose that might not be the real plan. Maybe they think it'll be over by Royal Rumble, and The Rock will be in the main event against Cody Rhodes. I don't know. That's certainly a possibility, especially if you believe some of the rumors that The Rock might not be available this time around, though I think he squashed that pretty good on social media. But who knows? I guess we'll just have to wait and see about that. But nonetheless, if Roman Reigns is just beating Solo Sikoa every single time along the way, then once he finally wins the Ulafala, then who cares? Everyone knew that was what was going to happen. So it's not like there's anything to do. And is he going to actually have matches against the other members of the Bloodline? They're the ones that actually look like they should be the final boss and not Solo Sikoa. Because if you look at the Judgment Day and what we just saw, Damian Priest just tore through everyone in the Judgment Day. And that made sense because he had to go up the ladder every single step until he got to the final boss with Finn Balor. And of course, he vanquished him as well. So you would think if Roman Reigns were actually showing up every time, he would have to beat Tonga and Loa and Fatu and then Sikoa, but those three are winning a lot more than Sikoa is. So are we going to have a revolt in the Bloodline? I don't think that's really what is planned here. That seems like something down the road once maybe Sikoa loses the Ulafala. But for now, there really shouldn't be any dissension since, you know, Roman Reigns wouldn't let those guys in the Bloodline, but Solo Sikoa did indeed bring them in, and in fact, they won the Tag Team Championships with him there as their leaders. So you would think they would be pretty happy about that, and sure enough, through this point, it does seem that that's the case. So I don't get a revolt angle coming up anytime soon, so for now, why don't we actually have Solo Sikoa win some matches? I think we need to flip the script here. Sure, he got a win against Jimmy, but everybody gets a win against Jimmy. He's really bad in his record. So I don't know. I think they've really messed this up. And I know I'm allowed to miss a couple picks every once in a while, but it would just be more fun if your top baby faces were really chasing something instead of just looking dominant all the time. So Cody Rhodes, if he's gonna win, we need Roman to actually look like he's gonna have a tough time. Or if Roman's just gonna wipe through everyone, it would be nice if Rhodes maybe had lost the title and had to regain it back. But I guess we'll see. We did get The Rock at Bad Blood, so it's likely that he is pulling the strings for Sikoa, so I guess Sikoa could still be considered the stepping stone for The Rock? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But I guess I'll have to rejigger how I'm thinking with my bets here going forward, because obviously Rhodes and Reigns are just not going to lose anywhere along the way. Just Triple H doesn't have it in him to make anything interesting happen and pull the strings and put any real resistance up against them. It's really sad to see, but I guess that's just the way they're going to go. So I guess it's more predictable and more money in our pocket. Unfortunately, just not as interesting. Oh well, with that, I think that just about wraps up my rant of the day here with the Bloodline. So hopefully Solo can get some wins to make this product even a little bit better. But until then, we'll see you 1 week from now at the next SmackDown with the Doc. So I'm the SportsZu, and this has been the OK Not OK podcast.